Alright, so we're back to the excerpt from Self and Unself. It's the limits of literalism. I was actually thinking a little bit about this morning when I woke up and just let my mind wander. And I really like my understanding so far of the text about the stuff what we experience, like these literalists thing he's talking about, those things. We're talking about the experience, like we have subconscious over there and we have objective reality over here. But everything exists within reality, right? And I kind of think that maybe it doesn't have to be that tritary, I don't know, binary, like that we have here. We have our spectrum of experience, and over there is that thing, and over there is that thing. It doesn't have to be that two-dimensional, right? It can be three-dimensional or even something else, that what we can experience and what we don't experience, right? Stuff that exists within reality can be any other way. It doesn't have to be either subconscious or objective reality. There can be a lot of other stuff that does not put... Right? Reality does not... From the point of reality, consciousness, awareness, human experience is not in the center. Like, it's just in the center from our point of view. So, yeah, it's just one bit of reality as it is. And I was kind of... Because then, right, all that exists within human experience exists within this spectrum. And this spectrum does not have to be two-dimensional. But then, like, Santa Claus and gravity and science and music and dreams all exists within this spectrum, but we can like separate them and look at them differently, but they still exists within that kind of spectrum. And I was thinking about this, right? We're talking about the end of the Paleolithic era, and the text is saying that what was it? Around 500 years ago, the useless magical element was ditched in favor of what we now call physicalism. And that is not really what happened. Right? That is not what happened 500 years ago. There's still a lot of magical elements in real, like, people experience magic. Like, there's a lot of religious people. So, those useless magical elements was not ditched. Also, not useless, I wouldn't say. Instead, I would say that humans came up with new ideas that broaden and make this ball of the spectrum of possible experiences bigger. Right? For example, today we can have the experience of thinking and just imagining string theory and quantum mechanics in a way that was never possible before. Today, we can feel how it is soaring through the sky in a different way than it, like, before we could do that in dreams, I suppose. Like, you could do lucid dreaming and experience that thing, increasing the amount of experience, the thing that ends up in this ball of spectrum of possible experience. But now we can fly an airplane, and that's something completely new, based on new modes of thinking that exists within this spectrum, right? We created more stuff through this physicalism or materialism or, scientism or whatever, science, right? through that we created way more experience. And more is not always better necessarily. But a lot of the stuff that gets generated, or the progression that happens, I would say is good, right? Just, you can fly from one side of the planet to the other side of the planet. And that is something that I consider fun. Yeah, I enjoyed my time in New Zealand. Go back 500 years and that's not as easy. I don't know, I was just thinking about that this morning, that it's an interesting way of looking at what we're talking about here. That everything that exists within human experience exists within this spectrum. That's the hard border, right? The hard border doesn't have to be just two directions. All right. Yeah, I was thinking about that because yesterday I felt like my main criticism was that it's very it looks like a lot of like subjectivism when I look at this. But it kind of makes sense that it looks as subjectivism, right? If you look at this ball of spectrum, or this multi-dimensional spectrum, all right, if we look at this thing from that point of view, the human experience is in the center, right? From this view, therefore all of this will look very much like subjectivist arguments, because of the human-centric view that the text is taking. Because everything outside that human-centric view is outside of our purview. Just because we're humans. Blasphemous as humanity, ... Yeah, that is what we are. That we have within ourselves. Right? Blasphemous, and that is why you shouldn't kill demons. No, that's not an argument for that at all, because right, not killing demons is within the realm of humanity as well. Right? We can take demons to torturing chickens to death just for eggs. I don't know. For food. Like torturing them to death or not, that whole ethics, all that is within human purview as well, right? It's not about the chickens. It's about humanity. Human-centric, because let's see. Blasphemous says, I don't even know what you said before the last few sentences. I just got back, Kappa. Nice, nice. Well, I was talking about this. Yeah, we'll get into it more. But yeah, that's also like killing demons or not is human-centric as well. What is this? Rousseau. I have become solitary, or, as they say, unsociable and misanthropic, because to me the most desolate solitude seems preferable to the society of wicked men, which is nourished only in the betrayals and hatred. So, and there's so much negativity going around. So much negativity. I've heard this name before. I have not read any of it, like, at all. I don't know what Rousseau is all about. I've just heard the name a couple of times. I guess it's someone that just, yeah, unsociable and misanthropic. I would say, yeah, you have some mental issues there, my friend. Maybe go see a psychiatrist. Let's see. Scientism is an extreme form of literalism, but some form of literalism has been the assumed foundation of all institutional thought since institutions began around 6,000 years ago. Alright, we're pointing out the limits of literalism, right? I kind of thought that this was an argument of trying to look at the world differently. But it's not really. With my new my new interpretation and understanding of this text, it is not arguing to try to breach the limits of literalism, like the hard borders. Well, actually, I would probably personally argue from this, but that's it's more of an opinionated thing, that increasing the spectrum of possible experience is a good idea in general. Not always, not in all multidimensional directions, but in some directions. Moving towards feelings of goodness, I suppose. Alright, there's a link about Rousseau and Blasphemous saying that I've noticed many philosophers don't like humans. I have not noticed that. Not myself. Yeah. Right, Rousseau was a Genevan philosopher, writer, and composer. His political philosophy influenced the progress of the Enlightenment throughout Europe. Nice. I like the Enlightenment. I like that. Oh, right. That is the... Yeah. Some things I did like, others not, right? That's how it always is, isn't it? Throughout Europe, as well as the aspects of the French Revolution and the development of modern political, economical, and educational thought. His discourse on inequality and the social contract. Oh, I've heard about the social contract. Are cornerstones in the modern and political social thought. Right. I've heard about that before. Alright, so what is the social contract? Like, specifically, the social contract... in which Rousseau theorized about the best way to establish a political community in the face of the problem of commercial society, which he had already identified in his discourse on inequality. The social contract helped inspire political reforms or revolutions in Europe, especially in France. The social contract argued against the idea that monarchs were divinely empowered to legislate. Yeah, Rousseau asserted that only the people who are sovereign have that all-powerful right. That doesn't really sound very convincing, but maybe in context it makes a lot more sense. I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of philosophers that, that's a typical trope in philosophy, right? That they start talking about the philosopher king, and that's being very egocentric, and them thinking themselves better than all the rest of humanity. So I guess from that point of view, sure, maybe that's a thing that happens. They see themselves as better than the rest of humanity. And I mean, if we're talking political philosophy, right? Because that, I kind of assume that's what we're talking about. And political philosophy, it's always about what not to do, and you're Like in ethics, you always look at the stuff that humans should not be doing. So you look at the negative aspects of humanity. Right? Within ethics, it's not really what one should do. It's not really that. It's more about what one should not do, right? So it looking like philosophers don't like humans, that makes sense to me as well, that it looks like that. Blasphemous, what was that about Levelhead? Alright, I've heard that, like, it's been alluded to, like it's probably not been tested, but that these new patches that has not yet been released might... Wait, actually, I can show you the exact thing that I saw. Right, we get this crash at startup, which is very similar to the one that we get on Linux. I don't know if it's the exact one. Maybe it is the exact one. It is this object that is the problem. The Rumpus downloader. It's very similar. And the response was, this is a known issue that has been resolved internally. Since it's a known issue, I'm thinking if it's the exact same thing I reported, maybe. The fix should roll out with the next patch very soon. And that makes me think that maybe it'll work on Linux after this patch rolling, this next rollout. Maybe. It's just hoping, right? I'm not expecting it will work, but I assume they have not tried it on Linux or like Proton, right? But there is a chance. Thinking like Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. And this... I've been like just keeping a little bit track about this. And this is all new. Yeah, this is all new. Like all these things were published recently. This was not here a couple of days ago. I'm thinking they're preparing to roll out a new patch on Steam soon, right? But I don't know. I'm keeping my eyes open. I'll let you know when it rolls out and I test it. Well, I think when that happens, I might be playing Levelhead again on stream, so you'll know when I know. Alright. What were we? Like, some form of literalism has been the assumed foundation of all institutional thought since institutions began around 6,000 years ago. Wasn't that longer ago? Well, in Europe, I guess, it was something like this. I think China did this, has done this way longer. Oh. There are, however, 4 catastrophic problems with literalism and all the scientific or religious philosophies built upon it. Oh, here we go. Specific. Let's see if my understanding of the text holds up until this next part. Alright. Self can never know what lies beyond its reach in space, if anything does, because self creates space. Yeah, we're stuck within our spectrum. That's pretty much what I said, yeah. We're stuck in here. But we can expand on the borders, right? We can still expand, like, these things that we've done has expanded the borders. So we can reach further into space. I don't know. Blasphemous asks, wait, Windows 11 will require a Microsoft account to log in? I don't know, I don't think so. I remember someone talking about some extra DRM stuff. But I have not looked into it. Not a lot at all, no. But it would be weird if you would have to log in before the operating system worked. Like, what would you do? Just make the computer... Like, would the computer not work offline? That seems like the operating system just not working if you're offline. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think there's probably a lot of restrictions if you don't log in. That would not surprise me. Like, highly incentivized to log in. But as a requirement, that sounds weird. Yeah. Right. The self cannot judge its own reliability without first presupposing it. Yeah, sure. What's the problem with this, though? Self just proceeds as if the thing in itself out there matches the literal representation it experiences in here. For the literalist, an essentially comprehensible universe walks into the self where it is literally doubled as my experience of it. Alright, yeah. There we go. Alright, again, right? It is a catastrophic problem. I don't agree that it's a catastrophic problem. It is a problem that we have no idea how to solve. Maybe this text will propose a way to solve it, but I don't see that happening, right? It is a metaphysical problem, sure. And it's worth keeping in mind, but I don't think it's catastrophic. Nodonor says that it doesn't require a Microsoft account. The leaked version tried to verify with the internet, but if you just unplug the internet, you could bypass that. Yeah. That's kind of what I thought, yeah. How could it? I mean, I suppose the way they could do it is ship Microsoft, that like part of the installation is a database of all the Microsoft accounts and their logins on the local machine, but that sounds like a security issue. Yeah, that sounds like a problem if you want to just send that database. Also, I don't know how much space a database like that would take on every machine. Yeah, that doesn't sound like something they would do. What's this? Nodonor says, updated scout LD underscores asterisk runtime to 0.22 something. Updated libxi to be compatible with the newer SDL and Steam. Steam for Linux. Improved NVIDIA Vulkan ray tracing support. Updated client beta branch. Oh, it's the new changelog for the newest version of Steam. Sorry, it's kind of unreadable. It's fine. Improved NVIDIA Vulkan ray tracing. Sure. Updated the client beta branch of Soldier container runtime. Don't know what that is. Soldier client beta branch have several security related library updates. Soldier client beta has improvements to... Seems like a lot of ray tracing. Ray tracing? Nodonor says, I didn't know there was NVIDIA ray tracing. Wait. I thought NVIDIA was the ray tracing thing. Isn't that something they were all hyping about? NVIDIA? The ray tracing thing? I don't understand these things. I mean, on Linux. I knew it was on Windows. Oh, okay, I get it. Well, there seems to be now, yeah. I'm not using NVIDIA myself. And probably never will again. Well, never say never, right? But unless it starts working, like, it's open, like if they open source everything and like AMD does, then I could be happy using NVIDIA again. But as it stands now, I feel like it's just problematic on Linux. Yeah, I don't like messing with the NVIDIA drivers. It's annoying. Note on Steam ships without runtime that games can run with. Each runtime generation is named after a Team Fortress 2 character, like Scout and Soldier. I had no idea. That's interesting. That's why it's Soldier thing. Very interesting. What's this? Linux gamers to get NVIDIA DLSS on some Proton games. NVIDIA and Valve are bringing DLSS to Linux gaming. Sort of. Nice, but we'd prefer significantly greater investment in native driver quality. Yeah. Would prefer... That sentiment sounds just like mine, right? This is nice, yeah. Great stuff. It's not enough for me to consider, like, buying NVIDIA graphics cards in the future, yeah. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Alright, the self then assumes that what it generates as space and time reflects a universe that fundamentally is spatio-temporal. Well... Yeah, that's the assumption that the self does, but I would say, like, I'm not a physicist, but my understanding is that physicists are starting questioning this spatio-temporality, right? Some part of physics would say maybe not so much. That's my understanding, right? Right, the literalist can never be sure if this is so. Indeed, it's an assumption. If there isn't something else beyond its grasp, so he has to assume it. Indeed. Not because, as he declares, this modus operandi works, indeed, and of course it does, but because he has to assume it. I mean, here we go again. I feel that the text is blurring the line about experience and intellectualizing. Right? Intellectualizing, we don't have to, right? That's kind of what this text is questioning, right? It doesn't have to be spatio-temporal. It's like between the lines. That kind of makes, from an intellectual standpoint, you don't have to assume it. From an experience like standpoint, that is what happens. It's not even that you have to assume it. It's just that your experience, like my experience of the world, is spatio-temporal. Because that is what it is. It's... I don't know if that means I have to assume that, like, world outside of myself has to be spatio-temporal. I don't... Right, he has no choice. The literal self can only experience meter readings, its own or those of the tools it builds, which means that the literalist must posit a miraculous ghost world beyond experience to explain those readings what those readings are of. Okay, if that is, he seriously reflects on such matters, which is rare. Yeah, the literalist, alright. Right. I agree that the literalists must posit a miraculous ghost world beyond the experience. Yeah, hasn't this text done the same? That's what I said, right, about the Kantian thinking, that there is the experience of the thing and there is the thing in itself. And the thing in itself is the miraculous ghost world beyond experience, right? I don't see how I have to assume anything about that miraculous ghost world out beyond, right? That world does not have to be spatio-temporal. When I reflect on that. Right, vague gestures towards God, ignoring the question of what anything actually is, or pretending it is meaningless to ask such questions are more common. Sure, all of which allow the modern assumption that the objective universe is as it appears to rest without question. I mean, it depends on who we're talking with here, right? Sure, in general, most people that are not doing the philosophy thing or the science thing or like all those things, most people just are happy with that assumption. Not because they have to, just because it's convenient. Yeah, it's a convenient assumption to make. Not because it has to be made, it's just convenient. And I think that's fine. Like, I wouldn't attack a non-philosopher for not knowing philosophy, right? Like, I would hope that, like, the Chinese would not be angry at me because I don't know Cantonese. Or the Japanese would, like, attack me for not knowing Japanese. I don't remember what it's called, right? That wouldn't make any sense to me. Plasma says, why are people considered anti-vax if they don't want to take the vaccine that hasn't been FDA approved and has not been tested enough? That's because of binary political discourse. There is no middle ground in that. I'm probably gonna... what's that called? Yeah, book the time. I got a letter yesterday that says, well... if you want to, you can now get the vaccination free of charge. I got that sent to me in the mail, so I'm probably gonna book that timing. Yeah. Why Make Me Do It All says you're wrong. Hello, Why Make Me Do It All? How are you doing? The vaccine has been tested enough. Do you even understand how a vaccine works? How vaccine trials work? I mean, why make me do it all? I would say that vaccine has been tested enough for you and for me, but not for blasphemous, right? That the enough here in this situation is a personal value judgment. And a personal value judgment cannot be wrong or right. It's just someone else's value judgment. Yeah. I'm gonna book my vaccinations because, I mean, I haven't even looked into it. If it has been tested enough or not. I don't really... Like, both my parents took it, they're fine. My grandfather took it, they're fine. I know that's just anecdotal, but for me, that is fine for me, right? Blasphemous says lol. Well, that was rude, wasn't it? Laughing at a disagreement. Why Make Me Do It All says not everything is everything a conspiracy. Please read a biology textbook and learn. Wait, do you have to read a biology textbook to to take medicine? I mean, isn't that the doctor's jobs? But I agree, like, most things are not conspiratorial, right? I would say, like, any potential problems that have not yet been discovered about the vaccine, it's not like, I don't think anyone would be hiding the tests, right? That wouldn't make sense, right? Blasphemous says, you can't test a vaccine in a couple of months. Of course you can. I mean, you can test it in a few minutes, right? Alright, let's take the shot. And then we take a time watch and say, alright, we test for 1 minute. Okay, you're fine. That's a test, right? So you can make the test in any time span you like. And if that's not enough for you, Blasphemous, I think that's just fine. Right? If you feel that you want more testing for it to be enough for you, I think that's okay. I mean, it's opinions, right? We all have different approaches to life. Blasphemous says, this goes against everything we've done prior. I disagree with that statement, yeah. As I said, right? I would say that, yeah, we don't have years and years of testing, right? We have no idea if there is going to be, like, 5-year effects with this vaccine. But, I mean, as an individual, you draw the line somewhere, right? Maybe it has to be tried for, like, for some people, it probably has to be tried for just generations, right? Oh, I want to see people live out the full life of this vaccination before I take it, which is equivalent to saying I don't want to take the vaccination. Personally, I don't mind taking it at all. Yeah. But I'm not afraid being part of the test, right? I'm not afraid of being part of that statistic. I think it makes sense. Nordhunter says 3 billion vaccine doses is not enough testing. Yeah, right. We've done a lot of testing for a certain time period, right? We have no idea if something will happen in 10 years based on these vaccines. It's more than enough for me personally, yeah. Nordhunter says, we know that it has side effects. It's not perfectly safe. Getting COVID is not perfectly safe either. Indeed, yeah. Blasphemous says, that does nothing to show long-term effects. My understanding is that the vaccine wears off, right? Doesn't it wear off? Which would imply to me that maybe there are no long-term, like, effects. Of course there are long-term effects, but like no serious ones. But I don't know, like, that's just a wild speculation and guess from my side, yeah. Nordhunter says, COVID has been known to have long-term effects. Yeah. Why would you trade a known problem for a possible one? Blasphemous says, for very few people, so why risk it? Yeah. I mean, it's a risk either way, right? It's dangerous to be alive, right? It is dangerous to be alive, right? And you take a risk every time you jump in a driving car. For convenience. I don't know. For whatever reason. Yeah. I don't mind being part of experiments. Long-term experiments. Yeah. I've thought about that. I haven't written down, like, I haven't signed a paper, but I thought about that the other day, that I should really sign a paper, like, giving my body away to science, right? Sure, if they find any organs in here that are still good when I die, just take them. And if not, just do the science. Do whatever you want with the body. I don't mind. I should sign a paper for that. Blasphemous says, I just don't think it's responsible to rush into it. Responsible? I don't know. I mean, it depends from what you define as responsible, right? Another person could argue that it is responsible to rush into it because of the experimentation, right? Your argument is that there has not been enough experimentation, then rushing into it, then I'm part of the experiment, and that is the responsible thing to do. So it depends on your perspective, right? Blasphemous continues, even FDA-approved drugs end up causing problems. Yeah, I've taken medication before where it has said potential side effects, sudden death. That has been the literal text. Well, in Swedish, but yeah, sudden death. That's one of the potential problems. I'm still taking that pill because I don't mind the risks. Potential risks. Yeah. Maybe that's because I'm not a very responsible person. That actually would make a lot of sense because I'm not a very responsible person, yeah. Note owner says, if you don't want to risk it, that's your personal value judgment. Exactly. I think that's probably fine for now, right? The vaccine doesn't seem like a persistent deadly threat, but COVID has proven it is. Exactly. I think it's gonna be like... They were very upfront with that in the thing I got in the mail. It said it's voluntary. Like, they very straightforward on that. For now, like, it's voluntary. But I could also see, like, in 5 years, if the problem, like, if COVID is still a problem in 5 years, I could see a lot of places making it mandatory. Yeah, like, just to eradicate the disease, just like smallpox. We eradicated smallpox, and that, like, people just saying no, then that doesn't work, right? That doesn't work. That's the social contract. Yeah. If you don't like it, fuck off. I can see that. Blasphemous says, see how quickly that guy got mad about it? It is like we have no choice according to these people, and we should just follow what everyone else does. Yeah. I understand that. Like, people get mad about it, right? Especially, right? I've seen a lot of anti-vaxxers that upset me. Yeah. Like, when we're talking about actual anti-vaxxers. Like, something that really triggers me is when I hear the phrase, vaccines cause autism. Because that kind of implies that they would prefer me being dead. Like, that's a straw man, I know, but that's my emotional reaction. Right? My emotional reaction, oh, alright. So, you would prefer me dying from some random disease over existing at all, right? That my existing is somehow terrible. That's my emotional response, and that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about emotional responses, getting mad about it. I get that is not where the argument is coming from, and that it is a straw man, but that is my emotional response. And emotions don't care about your logic, right? That's... So people get angry. I don't think that the polite thing to do is to laugh at people who get angry. No. Note owner says, I can understand getting mad about it. People who are hesitant to be vaccinated put all of us and our family at risk. Yeah, right. That makes sense to me, right? Like, imagine if they might be very emotional because maybe someone in their family, maybe, yeah, right, someone close to them died in the disease. Then I can imagine there being a lot of emotion connected to the thing as well, right? We don't know. No. Note owner says, I still think it's your right to decide, though. Yeah. Yeah. I'm all for that, indeed. Blasphemous says, well, if the vaccine works, the vaccinated should not be worried. Well, it's not as black and white as that, I would say, right? The preferable goal would be to eradicate the disease, right? I don't think that's gonna happen personally. Yeah. Letting it run havoc, right? There is an argument that, well, there is... what's that called? Mutations, yeah. Letting it run wild increases the risk of mutations, right? And making stuff worse. Possibly, yeah. Blasphemous says, I have a feeling we will just be going right back into lockdown in a few months either way. Possibly, yeah. Possibly. Actually, I think I heard... Didn't Australia go into lockdown just recently? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. Note owner says, in the United States, they're starting to pay people to get vaccinated. Nice. Specifically, there's a lottery where people can win millions of dollars. Oh, that's nice. I think that's probably a good idea, huh? The carrot instead of the stick? I like that. Yeah, use the carrot. I like that indeed. Note owner says, it works too. Both my mom and my dad has been excited about it. The lottery? That the lottery works? Wait, I'm confused. The vaccine works? I mean... Yeah, the vaccine work... That is just an assumption on my part, like... Why else would they be rolling it out? Yeah, the lottery. Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah. I like that. The lottery. Yeah. Carrot before the stick. But in the end, like, I would agree with Blasphemous. It's way too soon to pull out the stick, but I would go, like, I don't know, in somewhere between 5 and 10 years' time, I would get behind pulling out the stick as well. Just like I'm behind pulling out the stick for smallpox, for example, yeah. Not all vaccinations, but yeah. It's like, we talked about self-driving cars. I don't know why I got to thinking about self-driving cars, right? But self-driving cars will not really be super legal without people sitting at the wheel. But barring not civilization going under, I'm pretty sure that like in 50 years' time, it will, like, I don't know, just somewhere, I speculate somewhere into the future, it will be illegal to drive your own car and not have the car just drive by itself, because it will be safer. And that, I can see that being part of the future, just because it's safer for everyone, and therefore, if you want to drive in if you want to move in traffic by means of car, you're not allowed to drive the car. The machine has to drive the car. I'm convinced that is what will happen, assuming the continued progression of society. Yeah. Node owner says, we need to slow this thing down because it's mutating. Yeah, that kind of thing sounds scary to me, yeah. The mutation, right? I mean, a lot of people have said that this COVID has been fucking terrible, but I'm like, that's a failure of imagination, right? I was thinking it was gonna be way worse. I think so far humanity has done a pretty good job, and so far, like, it could have been so much worse. Still can be, right? Still can be. Right? It's not like half of the global population isn't dead, right? That hasn't happened yet. That's why I'm confused about the thing about not wearing masks. I was kind of thinking that maybe that's just a new normal, like people wearing masks out in public. That makes a lot of sense to me, yeah. Maybe. Well, I guess the counter argument is that, like, long-term wise, that will just make us weaker to the disease. It becoming more and more dangerous to be alive because we don't let our bodies handle the disease. I don't know about that, though. Two different sides on that question. Blasphemous. What if the self-driving cars run someone over? Whose fault is it? Well, if you listen to Uncle Bob? Wait, what was his name again? With the Factorio thing. The uncle... It's the programmer's fault, right? Well, if it's an accident, it's both the person getting run over and the programmer. Right? It's an accident, right? We don't necessarily say that it's someone's fault today if someone gets run over. We say that it's an accident. But, I mean, there would have to be an investigation, right? What happened? Is someone at fault? That's a good question to ask. And my thinking is that, like, somewhere in the future, 50 years from now, right? If people getting run over, it's like, happens 99% less, then it just makes sense, right? If people just don't get run over anymore, then yeah, that's a complete win. Blasphemous says, I'm completely fine with wearing a mask. Huh. Like, not only for COVID, right? Just in general. Wearing a mask is probably a good idea, not spreading like any old disease. Blasphemous continues, I've also been good about washing my hands before this happened. Yeah, that's a good thing as well. Like, washing your hands, that's very good. Coleman says, hey Satter. Hello Coleman, how are you doing today? Kiss a homie? I mean, I think we're too far off. Also, social distancing. I don't like kissing strangers. I don't like kissing people that I know. I don't like hugging people. Yeah, like acquaintances that, like, I have problems watching people in the eye and shaking their hands. It's not about you, it's about me. It's about me, Coleman. It's not about you.
The sounds were a real horror show. It's very realistic. And you could even get the heavy breathing and panting of the tall-chopping Malchiks.
If you would be in the need of a hug, I would definitely hug you and give you a kiss if that is something that you would need, right? If we were, like, in real life acquaintances, of course I would give you a hug if that was needed, but I personally prefer not to. Yeah. Node owner says they already have run someone over. Yeah, of course. Yeah, and probably will for a while, right? I'm talking way off in the future, speculative future. Like, it's not, right? It's not good enough that the car is just 50% better driver, maybe not even 99% better a driver. Maybe it has to be 99.9999999% better of a driver. But I can see that happening in the future, and in that potential future, I could see it being also illegal for a person driving that said car, right? Just like I can see like society taking out the stick for the vaccine in the future when society feels safe enough with the vaccine. Yeah. Blasphemous says, I think I saw a video of a self-driving car driving right into some gas pumps at a gas station. Does not surprise me at all. Yeah, it's not even close to being good enough yet. Yeah. Blasphemous says kissing strangers is fun. Oh, and Coleman says, Lyric, you just came in to post a lot of pretty pictures. Are you drunk, Coleman122? Ah, I kind of missed out on that. Right. Blasphemous says kissing strangers is fun. Yeah, to each their own, right? It's not my preference. But yeah, if you like it, go ahead. Blasphemous says, it's a good thing I wasn't born 10 years later. Oh, the STDs I would have. Wait. Are there more STDs? I would have guessed that they lessened, right? With the spread of condoms and everything. I'm not really moving. The rates are much higher, says Blasphemous. Oh, well, that's good timing then. I would guess. Yeah, good timing for you indeed. Where were we? All right. Vague gestures towards God, ignoring the question of what anything actually is, or pretending it is meaningless to ask such questions are more common. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't attack any of you for not speaking Swedish, right? That doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, does not make any sense to me. Let's see. Blasphemous says, birth control is an excuse not to use condoms for many. Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't like condoms. They makes things worse. So I could see people using that as an excuse, yeah. Node owner says, casual sex is much higher. Yeah. Yeah, of course, yeah. Not as repressed. More yeah, feeling more free to do whatever it is that you want to do. I mean, I don't do that casual sex, right? I don't do it, but I would hope that one negative aspect, like just use a condom, right? Damn it. It's like wear a mask, use a condom, damn it. And whatnot. Wear a condom, wash your hands, wear a mask. All good ideas, I think. Good norms to have. Alright. The physicalist in particular is forced to cling to the meter-reading view of the universe. Yeah? I mean, Sure, I agree with that. To assume that the meter readings of the self accurately reflect objective reality. Again, I don't say that I don't agree that this is a necessity. I think a lot of people do it, right? And I would probably concede that I do it to some degree. To some degree, yeah. But it's not necessary. Right? Even when they inform him that he is in error. Right? When they inform him? Oh, the readings. But if you trust the readings and the readings says you are in error, then that type of person will say that, oh, I am in error. Isn't that... That's weird. That's weird. Physicalist philosophers believe that philosophy should limit its claims to what natural sciences can discover. That philosophy is really just a preliminary stage or a handmaiden to real work of the physicalist scientist. I mean, I assume that I would probably end up in the physicalist philosopher group here. And I would definitely not say that, right? My view is that philosophy is primary to all science, right? Philosophy created science. I can see the reasoning behind, like, some types of philosophy should limit its claims, but like philosophy in general, I don't see why that would make any sense. No. I could see, like, if you do specific philosophical work about, I mean, let's see religious, like, what's it called? Theistic philosophy, right? Should you start talking about quantum mechanics? No, you should stick to the Bible. Just like if you do philosophy about quantum mechanics, then you should not bring in the Bible, right? Yeah. But that's not limiting claims, that's limiting scope. Yeah, limit your scope. But philosophy in general, there is... Yeah, try to break free from any boundaries, I would say, to philosophy, right? Just to try it out. So I would say that I think it's okay that some philosophers say this within their scope. Right, but when, in the first half of the 20th century, those same scientists discovered that ultimately quantum reality cannot be literally grasped by the self, their discoveries were effectively ignored. What? By whom? By some people, sure. I wonder when this was written. When was this written? Do we have like a 20th of April 2021? That's not at all the experience. Like, I mean, I'm not a quantum scientist, but I'm interested in it as a layman and a philosopher, right? I don't pretend that I understand it, but I find the ideas alluring. Yeah, and I find the philosophy around it alluring as well. I completely disagree that they were, like, some people sure ignored it, like, but that it feels like a scope thing again. Yeah, it feels like a scope thing. Yeah, you can ignore some stuff, but They did ignore the unicorns as well. I don't know. Right. The problems that physicalist thinkers endeavor to solve, such as the relation between mental and physical phenomena, are implicitly founded on a literal logic that has been discovered by the same science they uphold to be incompatible with objective reality. Alright. This is a contradiction of the text, right? I'm pretty sure this is a contradiction, right? Because earlier the text said there are boundaries, right? There are boundaries, and now the text is claiming that, no, those were not boundaries. I was just making those boundaries up because quantum mechanics has shown that those, it's still the experience of the person. It's still within that spectrum, right? Quantum mechanics and the experience of those knowledge has all been within that same spectrum. It has not broken the bounds. They have maybe they have pushed the boundaries further out, right? They've created more possible experiences. I don't know. And I've heard that quote before. When someone says that they understand quantum mechanics, they are mistaken. What is the quote? If you think that you understand quantum mechanics, then you don't understand quantum mechanics. I think that's the quote. And I feel that it's apt here. Right? To be incompatible with objective reality. That's a broad statement to make. That's a very big statement to make. And if that was a fact, which is kind of stated as, I mean, since I am interested in these things, I think I would have heard the evidence for this fact. And I think that would be a big deal, right? If, the scientist, the quantum scientists just said, all right, we now know for a fact that there is no objective reality. It's all created by the mind. That would be a big deal. That's one of the biggest philosophical questions, right? That we want answers to. I'm not even convinced that there ever will be an answer to this. Because of what, the same things that this text has said, right? There exists a lot of stuff outside the realm of experience that are unknowable. Right? That is a fair assumption to make, that there exists unknowable things. It is an assumption, though, but I think it's a fair assumption. With our current understanding, even including with the current understanding of... That's the problem, right? With quantum mechanics, the current understanding is on very wobbly ground. There's multiple different interpretations of what quantum mechanics means, and there are no agreements about what that means for reality or quantum mechanics itself. Yeah. Yeah, that... This gave me a bitter taste, right? That's... I don't know. Alright, let's continue. Just as the literal self cannot know what lies beyond spatial representation, so it is incapable of grasping the cause of its experience in what it calls time. It has no idea of how facticity and causality, aka the universe, could have causally emerged from a non-facticity and a non-causality, because it can have no idea. I mean, it can have ideas. It can't have the knowledge, I would say. Right? Yeah, we cannot have the knowledge of the thing, right? We can have ideas. Right? If it was not possible to have the ideas, could this text really exist? Like, the idea of free will is a non-causal thing, right? It exists without causality. Right? Because the will of the person speaking, right, would have no cause. It would be a cause in itself, right? And would have no cause, which would break causality. Right? It would lead to a non-causal universe. That's why so many people reject the idea of that type of free will, because it would break causality. But that idea still exists, and it's fairly prevalent, I would say. Yeah. All right. This is not a question of not knowing something, of not yet having the right theory or enough data. There is no way to think about how time and space could emerge from non-time and space. Isn't that exactly what the subjectivists do? Well, I suppose that ends like they emerge from my experience, which one cannot wrap your head around, just like infinity is super difficult to wrap your head around. So it is difficult to... Is it impossible to wrap your head around it, right? Again, that's talking about experience again. I think that's the same mistake again, right? Intellectualist thinking and experiential thinking. I mean, there is no way to wrap your mind around the idea, perhaps, which we could explore it, but let's just assume that there is no way to wrap your head around this idea. That still does not mean that we cannot say that, well, time and space can emerge from some non-time and non-space thing. Actually, isn't that the whole Big Bang theory? Isn't that a way to say how it emerged from non-time and non-space? Right? I'm pretty sure one interpretation of the Big Bang, is that it emerged that there was nothingness. Like, there was no before. There was no time, there was no space, and it just exploded into existence. But there are ways to think about it. It's just, since we are four-dimensional beings, we cannot wrap our minds around how it would what the experience would be like to be a non-dimensional being, right? Or five-dimensional being. We can't wrap our mind around it, but that does not mean we cannot think about it. That's such a weird thing to say, I think, from this, like, it seems like I'm kind of think that I'm misunderstanding the text, because that seems such a big oversight to have done in this text, just to, like, this statement just seems dumb to me, because that's just, yeah, that's the Big Bang Theory. That's, well, one type of the Big Bang Theory. Like, I've heard another idea about the Big Bang Theory, that it's like a heart, like a muscle pulsating, just exploding into a universe, and then just, well, I've heard different types of it, and then just re-exploding over and over again. Both that thing, just doing that thing, and then I've also heard that these are all like maybe philosophy, maybe more artistic than logical, but like that the black holes can be exploding into new universes, like all that nothingness, and then something explodes into somethingness. I don't know. Right. And so literalists just ignore the matter or focus on the measurable effects of this emergence, or again they posit miracles to explain it. Sure. And that again, right? It's very... I get the feeling that I get the accusatory feeling from this text sometimes. It's not the first time. It's not the second time. I just get this feeling that it's... Oh, they just ignore it. But it's a matter of scope, I feel again. Yeah, it's a matter of scope. People work at a different scope than wherever this text is working. And I don't think that... I mean, they lead to interesting stuff, right? Right. While theist literalists are quite open about this, informing us that an equally literal God created the universe, atheist literalists, embarrassed by magic, I wonder if I don't know. Embarrassed by magic? I don't mind saying I don't know. Right, there are so many things I don't know, and I'm sure maybe that's embarrassing. I don't know. Prefer either to wave the problem away with, well, it must have happened, and pretend that this happening can't have been miraculous. Or they sneak causality into their assumptions using words like happen, came to be, and emerge to describe the source of causality itself. Yeah, I mean, that I can get behind. I mean, I do that. Sneak causality into everything. Yeah. I tend to do that, yeah. Sneak causality into everything. It's just... And I suppose from an outside view that can probably look like a dismissing of non-causal... the possibility of non-causal reality, which is a fair point from the text. Maybe I do that. But also until someone gives me proper evidence for non-causality, which actually I don't even know how that would look, which is maybe the point the text is doing, that since I don't know what it would look like. Interesting. Blasphemous says, would you count agnostics with religious/spiritual? It depends on the definition of agnostic. I would probably consider myself an agnostic more than an atheist. Isn't that agnostic is like you believe what you see kind of attitude? Right? There might be a creator. I mean, I don't know for a fact. Personally, I reject all the religious beliefs. All the religious institutions' beliefs, I reject all of those. That maybe makes me an atheist, but agnostic, religious, spiritual. I think you can be an spiritual atheist. Right? I don't necessarily exclude spirituality from... I've met a lot of people that have, or I've seen a lot of people that have done... what's that called? Psychedelics, right? And they could like, and they call themselves psychonauts and feel very spiritual and talk about the interconnectedness of all things and all this stuff, but they can also reject all religious, and they can reject I've seen people like that reject magic. Yeah. Like the idea of magic, different mysticism, right? Rejecting all types of mysticism. So I would say that's up to whoever calls themselves agnostic, that's up for them to decide if they are religious or spiritual. Actually, I would probably say most people calling themselves agnostic would probably not be religious, but I wouldn't put words in their mouth. That would be my guess. Right. But however the miracle is framed, a miracle remains the only way for literalists to explain or accept the incoherent absurdity at the heart of both standard modern theism and standard modern atheism, that causelessness caused causality. That's an interesting statement. Causelessness caused causality. Something out of nothing, eh? I can reject that. No, I can reject that. Right? I can say, like an agnostic, I can say, well, I don't know about that. Like, nothing causing something? I don't know that that happened. Like, the Big Bang Theory is about something that supposedly happened from a time perspective 13.8 billion years ago, whatever it is, something like that. But I can reject that theory, like, as an atheist, as a theist, I can reject that theory, right? The theist can reject that theory. The theory can say that God is not wait, can we say that? Can we talk about God as a non-prime mover? I mean, a theist probably can. I mean, I'm not very good at that thing, but I can imagine that there is probably a form of theism that says that God was not a prime mover. Maybe they would say that God is causality, right? If they embrace causality, which not all religious people do, right? That's a mistake in this text, I'd say. Like, not everybody embraces causality. But if they embraced causality, they would probably say that God is causality, if we take monotheism, that is. So God is causality, it did not cause it, it just is. And that's just, yeah, that's just is. Causality just is and is not caused. What was the point here? Incapable of grasping the cause of its experience. Yeah, just like with the first one, I say that sure, this is even less of a problem than the first thing. And it's definitely not catastrophic. It's not even close to catastrophic. It's... Yeah. Yeah. This one does not... Where are we at? We're at lunchtime. Alright, so we've had 2 of these catastrophic problems that I just reject both of them so far, for different reasons. I can see that this is a problem, like the first one is a problem, but it's not a catastrophic problem. Yeah. Alright, but it is lunchtime. Yeah, I had a good time killing some demons, doing some metaphysics. Oh man, I like metaphysics. I like some of the ideas that are presented, like it has made me think about things that I've only had vague notions of before. Like where the human experience exists within reality. And I really like this new model, right? I think my model previously have been quite dualistic, right? That it has only been the mind and everything outside the mind. But you can build like a reality model. I like that model, where there is a spectrum of experience, and then there's a lot of other stuff outside that spectrum of experience that is not knowable. But there's probably even stuff outside of the spectrum of experience that can never be experienced in any way. Like it can never be observed. That would not, like, that is probably a thing. Like, just like there's probably stuff outside the observable universe, right? There's probably stuff out there. But, like, humanity will never know. Well, probably never know. Never say never. Like, from our current understanding, we will probably never know. And one could argue that if our species, or the evolution of our species, will ever know, that will be so different from the humanity that we know that it would probably not even be called humanity anymore, because that would be something way different. Yeah, I do like metaphysics. I hope you had a good time. So thanks for hanging out, and see you next time. Have a good one. Cheers.